Hello and welcome to Free From Food, where today we're going to be making a Reese's chocolate peanut butter cake. First of all, we're going to need 350 grams of butter, 250 grams of self-raising flour, 350 grams of caster sugar, 8 eggs and 100 grams of cocoa powder. And first of all, we're going to be getting into our stand mix the butter and also the caster sugar. And we're now going to blend the two until it is pale, light and fluffy. Okay, so the butter and the sugar has been beating for the last few minutes. I'm just going to scrape it back again, and as you can see, it is much more pale, light and fluffy, which is exactly what you want, whereas to begin with it was very yellow and not so soft. So now we're going to break it down again, and we're going to incorporate the eggs into the mixture. And whilst it was mixing, I was lightly beating the eggs, and whilst the mixer is on, I'm going to slowly add in the eggs. But you don't want to add it too much, too fast, or otherwise it will curdle the mixture. Every now and then make sure that you do keep on scraping it back so everything is evenly incorporated. And put it back on and carry on. Okay, so the egg has been beaten in. You can see that it is slightly curdled, which is absolutely fine, because now what we're going to do is take the flour, get the bowl out, and we're now going to fold in with a spatula rather than the stand mix, just so you can make sure it's folded in nicely, and so it doesn't let out too much of the air that you've just beaten in. Okay, so the flour is now into the mixture. I'm now just going to gently fold it in. In a minute, we'll also add in the baking powder and xanthan gum. And this is just to make sure that the gluten that isn't in the flour at the moment is counteracted, I suppose. And the baking powder will make it rise more in the oven. Okay, so now I've folded in the flour, and we're now going to add in the cocoa powder. And then we're going to do the same. So gently folding in the cocoa powder until it's all one mixture. Okay, so the cake batter is now completely made up and perfect. What we're going to do now is put it into the cake cases, which have been buttered and lined, and then we can stick it in the oven for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the deepness of your cake tins. And then we're going to put it on to make sure it's at 180 degrees C, gas mark 5 or 360 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll get the cake tins as well as our easy prepared lined baking cases. Just going to flatten that down at the bottom of the cake tray. And all we've got to do now is find the scoop, and we put 6 scoops in the 2 8-inch tins, and we put 3 in each of the small tins. So we'll get 1, 2, okay, so there we go. We've got 4 cakes ready to go into the oven, and we'll put that in there now. The cakes are in the oven, and luckily, for the sake of time, here's some I made earlier. So now we just need to fill the cakes and then crumb coat the outside. Okay, for the butter icing, we have 250 grams of butter, 250 grams of peanut butter, but make sure it's smooth, not the crunchy, and we have icing sugar. So we are going to put the 250 grams of butter into the bowl, and luckily this is at room temperature, so it's easy to mix. So the peanut butter goes in, and we also need 250 grams of that. And we're also going to need 500 grams of icing sugar. Okay, so first of all, we're going to beat the peanut butter and butter together until it's a bit fluffier than it is at the moment and well mixed in. Okay, so the butter and the peanut butter has been mixed together. Now we're going to sift in the icing sugar, and this will make it much thicker, and also it will be spreadable for the outside of the cake. Okay, so that's half of the sugar in, and we're just going to fold this in gently to begin with, just so it doesn't puff everywhere. And then once it's well mixed in, we can then move on to beating it a bit faster so that it is all well incorporated. Okay, so I would not recommend mixing it too much so it goes all over yourself, but we'll just roll with it, as I think it's a good aesthetic for my new t-shirt I've got here, but don't try that at home. So now what we're going to do is, for the filling of the two big cakes, we're going to transfer some of this butter icing into a piping bag. And we're going to pipe it into the centre of the cake, so it's got a nice even filling, it doesn't spill out too much. Okay, so now we're going to get a turntable with our first cake, and first of all we're just going to pipe a thin line around the outsides and then just fill in the centre with that amazing peanut butter icing. Now moving on to the crumb coat, we're going to use the remaining icing that we have here, and we're just going to put a very, very thin layer on the top and sides of the cake, and this is to seal in the crumbs. It doesn't have to look professional, it's just to cover up those crumbs. Okay, so now what we're going to do, now the big cake has been crumb coated, we are going to do the exact same thing to the small one, but gently placing it on the top here, as so, making sure it's even, and then again, going to go over the top and the sides with a thin coating of butter icing. Okay, so the whole cake is now crumb coated, as you can see, and we're going to stick this into the fridge just for 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes, just to cool the outside edge, so when you put the final coat on, all the crumbs don't come off the crumb coat. So we're going to put this into the fridge and we'll come back to you for the ganache. Okay, so for the chocolate ganache, which will be on the top of the cakes, we've got 130 grams of strong dark chocolate. We're going to put this in the bowl here for now. And we've got a pan on the heat, on a medium to high heat, sorry. And we're going to put the cream into the pan until it starts to boil. And we're just waiting for the bubbles just to start tumbling over the cream. And then we would pour the cream into the chocolate, keep on mixing it until it is shiny. And we've got our ganache ready to go. Okay, so get our bowl of chocolate here. And all we're going to do is pour in this cream. And just mix the chocolate about a little bit so it melts into the bowl. And this will make our ganache. Okay, so as you can see, the chocolate is now melting, and it's very glossy, which is exactly what we want. Right, there we go. The chocolate ganache is looking very nice. Now all we need to do is finish off the buttercream on the side of the cake, and we can pour this on the top. Okay, so now making sure that your spatula is clean, we're just going to get more of this butter icing, very gently go around the side so they don't pick up the crumbs off the crumb coat. So finally we've got the crumb coat finished, and then we've got the final outer layer done around the edges here. All we need to do now is finish off with the chocolate ganache. You have one chance at this, so let's hope it goes well. So, just spoon by spoon, I'm going to put some of the chocolate ganache on the top and around the edges. And we want to make sure it covers the top of the cake and then it dribbles down a little bit on the sides, which will look super, super cool. Okay, with our cake now finished with the ganache, all we need to do is get our Reese's decorations and just slice some of them. Thank you very much for watching this video on how to make a Reese's cake. So we've got peanut butter icing on the side, chocolate ganache on the top, decorated with even more Reese's on the sides, and a chocolate filled cake in the middle. It's the perfect cake. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video for even more gluten-free, vegan and dairy-free items. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for another video on Free From Food. Thank you very much. Bye.